So can doing less actually make your beats sound better and gain more attention? Well, I think the answer is yes. And most producers are messing up and missing out on opportunities by overcomplicating their beats. How do I know? Well, because I've worked with a bunch of artists over the last 5 years and I've experienced firsthand what they actually look for when they're choosing beats to record over. So I asked a bunch of you producers on my email list to submit some beats for me to review. And after going through over 100 submissions, I found that this one crucial mistake, among a few others, just keeps showing up. So today I'm going to roast 3 producers' beats who are prime example of these mistakes. I'm going to show you exactly what went wrong and I'm going to show you how to fix it so that your beats will hopefully stop collecting dust on your beat store and will get used by artists who you actually want to work with. So we're going to kick things off with my guy Rudra, got a beat called Drillers. Okay, so there's one glaringly obvious thing that's kind of wrong with this. I hope some of you guys can pick up on this. But to make this easier to understand, back in 2016, I've been making beats for a few years now, and I was at a point where I was ready and confident enough to just start trying sending some beats out for placements, you know, grabbing some emails and just seeing what would come back. I was doing a typical thing like, you know, kind of send some beats, bro. I reached out respectively. Obviously, I wasn't just like, give me your email. But yeah, I managed to get about 100 emails or so, and I was just shooting beats out 2-3 times a week. Pretty hopeful that I was going to land some good placements, and I got 0 response, just 100% ghosted by every single artist that gave me the email. And I honestly was at a loss. I've been doing it for like 2 or 3 months and had 0 response, and I mean 0 response. So I was like, fuck it, I've had enough of being ghosted. Let me just go and ask one of the artists straight up, like, is there an issue with the beats? Like, is there something wrong with the production? Are you even receiving the emails? You know, basically, why aren't you using my beats? And this is what he told me. All right, bro, let me put it like this. If we were trying to have a conversation in person and you just kept talking over me constantly, interrupting every sentence to the point where I can't even fit a word in without getting spoken over, then eventually I'll just walk away and find someone else to speak to who's actually going to let me reply to what you're saying. Effectively, what he was trying to tell me is that my production at the time was just not giving him any space to record vocals over them. He might have even liked the bounce on a few of them, but whenever he'd go to record, there was just 0 space for him to work. And this is the same thing for you, Roger. Not only is the kick super busy and it's really kind of like invasive and there's just a lot going on, especially since it's a drill beat, you've got the counter snares going, the melody's actually quite high energy too. That kick is just way too busy. So strip it back, make it simpler, and also mess around with the leveling of this beat as well, because it's not mixed the best, especially the kick, which is kind of like a double whammy. It's too loud. You couple that with it being super busy, then you just got a recipe for disaster with this one. So let me show you a little example of a recent beat I made where the kick is prominent, but it's not too invasive and it's not too busy. Let's focus in on the kick. It's the kick pattern right here. Just notice how it's like, it's enough to the point where it gives you a bounce, but it's not interrupting the rest of the beat. If I was to just go in similar to how you had it and it was like, just too much, you know. It still is quite a bounce there, but you know, if you're trying to hear some vocals over that kick eventually is just gonna get a bit annoying and a bit jarring. Yeah, dial the kick back, Rudra, make it sort of more cohesive with the rest of the beat, and the beat will be much better. And if you watching want to have your beats reviewed on this channel too, then jump on my email list below, because I'm going to send out the next application to have your beats ripped to shreds on this channel pretty soon. But yeah, let's move on to our next producer. So the next producer goes by the name Wabomba 711. Okay, this one could have potential because the sample's really nice, the drum bounce is really nice. There's just 2 things really standing out in this beat that's really gonna hurt your chances of an artist actually using your beat. So the first quick fix is fix your 808s up. If you're using a sample, it sounds like you've used a sample, you've got the stems here. You need to establish what the root note of that sample is. Now, if you don't have the ear for it, you know, if you can't play the sample, pull up a bass and just kind of do it by ear, then here's a really easy way and almost like a guaranteed way that you won't get the bass notes wrong. Is just pull the sample into your mixer, add a basic EQ to it, cut out all the high end, so you're just left with the bass, add edits into it, and then just record a 4-bar or an 8-bar loop into it, just enough of the sample as to where it comes back to the beginning and it starts repeating again. And then just come down to this little flag, click detect pitch regions, and now it's just going to give you the bass notes of the sample. Starts at F and then it goes to E. So you now know that your bass notes are F an E. Don't need to deviate from that for this beat. So that's the first thing, man. Really important that you get that right. But the one thing that won't fly and is crucial to your success in landing placements, getting beats to artists who will actually then want to use them, is this one thing. So rewind a few years. I can't really remember the actual year of this, but it was back when I first discovered the soft clipper. I realized that taking everything off the master and just banging his soft clipper on will just makes the beat sound better. As long as there's enough volume going into it, it sounds cool. So I was like, man, this is sick. I've got this figured out now. I'm going to get placement after placement, going to get those platinum plaques. But there was one key ingredient missing from this whole equation, and that was my actual ear, my actual ability to hear the mix in context and be able to decide whether that's going to be industry ready or not. And the answer, unfortunately, at the time was no. I couldn't just sit with a beat, hear it, and be able to level it to a point where a rapper could jump on it and it'll be ready to go, essentially. Until I learned this one little trick, and it's a very simple staple trick that you can also apply to your beats, and that is to just use reference tracks. If you haven't been doing this for too long and you just haven't got that ear yet, then pulling in a reference track, and by reference track I just mean a beat that also sounds similar to yours, a beat that's selling, a beat that's got placements, and a beat that is performing well online, you know, as a type beat. Then yeah, pulling in a reference track and just trying to match your volumes to a beat that's already successful is a really good way to get the ball rolling. And Wabomba, that's exactly what I'd recommend to you, my friend. So with yours, you've got a big punchy 808, but it's super overpowering. It's really sat on top of the mix. You got a nice counter snare bounce and a good snare, but you can barely hear them in this mix. If you listen to most drill beats, that snare is popping, the counter snare's popping, and then the bass is popping. So I'll get all three of those to really come out in the mix if you want to compete against, you know, some of the big hitters in the drill space. So give me a minute. I'm going to go through and just remix this beat. I've got the stems here, show you exactly what to do with the use of a reference track. Okay, all done. So basically what I've done is just tidied it up a little bit, and I just remixed these. I've fixed the bass as well. And yeah, we've gone from sounding like this. So now we're sounding like this. The 808 kind of sits nicely with the kick. The counter snare comes through clearer, so does the hi-hats, open hats, just all the percussion is now more present in the beat, and it gives you more of a rhythm. And how did I get to this point? I went and used a reference track. So what I went and did was I took a beat from YouTube. This was the beat I found. I just found a beat that sounded similar, you know, to the vibe of the one that we're working with. Pulled it into FL Studio, and then I just had this sitting at the bottom of the project as I was mixing the beat. So I'd bring one element in, I'd listen out for like the kick, for example. Then I went back into my mix and adjusted the kick accordingly until I got to a nice sweet spot. And then I just kind of rinsed and repeated that process. Same for the drums, same for the melodic elements. Voila. Yeah, for those of you guys that struggle with your mixes, then using reference tracks like this will definitely start leveling up your beats. Thus, get you a shit ton of placements. But yeah, let's move on to the next producer. This producer is called Jao. Got a little Dirk type beat. There's a few things missing here that's really going to lower the chances of an artist listening to the beat, really vibing with it, and being able to actually come up with some good lyrics for it. And I'll be totally honest, this one actually reminds me a little bit of where I was at in around like 2015, because I felt like I was doing everything right. I had the melody down, the chord progressions were down, nice drums, similar to what you've submitted to me in this beat. But the crazy part was that still no one was using my beats. I was uploading them as type beats, sending them out on a regular basis. There was just something wrong. And I figured out the solution to this problem was staring me right in the face. It was pretty simple, but I just wasn't aware of it at the time, and most new producers just aren't either. So yeah, I was watching this YouTube video. I think it might have been like Superstar O, just watching one of his cook up videos, and he kind of went through his whole process of cooking up a beat, you know, getting it arranged and mixed and sent out. And he just said something that really hit home for me and really just woke me up to the whole process of creating a good sounding beat. And that was that it's not about how many sounds you use, of how crazy the MIDI is. It is more about how those sounds hit, basically the sonic feeling of those sounds that you've used in any given beat. Starting off with the right source material, you know, so good sound selection off rip, mixing it properly, and just getting it loud enough into the point where the drums are really hitting and you can really just feel the vibe of the beat, almost like the sounds are kind of more 3D than like two-dimensional. And yeah, this was a huge light bulb moment, man. So went back to the drawing boards, factored all of that in, simplified the process, and not only was it a revelation for me, but I was actually able to go out and prove it, because the very next few months I started landing placements and actually ended up getting one of my biggest placements of all time during that time as well. And the same goes for you, Jao. I'd say in this beat you've actually got all the elements, however the delivery of it isn't quite there yet. Leveling issues, mixing issues, the beat sounds quite squashed, there's no real punch to the kick and the 808. Let me take a look at this real quick. I'll just fiddle with the stems you sent me and see if I can come up with something that just sounds a little bit more professional. Okay, so we've got the beat. This was the original. And then here's my version. The only thing that I have done to this is two things. Number one is I have gone through and just re-leveled the beat, made sure that all of the right elements are sitting in the right pockets. Kicking the drums are like the main focus, so they're going to be sort of like the loudest sounds or the most prominent sounds. Drums just beneath it, melody sort of like halfway between there as well. Not exact science, but you got to kind of do this by feel and by ear. But I generally find that's where the levels tend to sit at for most beats. And then a little side tip for this beat is the arrangement. And if you take a look at the original stems, like that piano is just playing throughout the whole thing. This pad, exact same thing. And then occasionally you get this piano sprinkled in here and there. Same story for the drums really. So all I've done is had that piano play, but then all I did is just kind of switch it to a part where it plays down an octave. It just lets the artist know that like, okay, now we're going into the verse of this song. It just gives them more direction and more influence as they're right into the song. But the idea is that you just want to keep things moving and just make it obvious where certain sections in the song sit and just give them a real clean canvas to start writing to and recording on. So yeah, Joe, good stuff. But now it's just a case of taking that beat to the next level from a sonic perspective. So add this to your arsenal, man, and I can almost guarantee that any artist that gets their hands on your beats will be way more likely to write to them and hopefully get you some good placements too. Which brings me on to the 10 people still watching this. If you got value from this, I have to know in the comments. Over the last 2 videos, I've had over 200 producers apply for this, and I want to keep making more of them because to me, this is the highest value format of content that I'm putting out on this channel. This is exactly what I do with the producers in my mentorship program every day, and I see the results, but I obviously can't do it for hundreds of you, but I'd love to put at least one of these videos out per month. I just need to know that it holds value. So what you need to do is get on my email list because I will send you the form for when I do one of these next. Now, if you want to know how to get your beats from sounding crap to pro level in just 90 days, yes, 90 days, I've done it myself and I've actually done it with a producer in real time too, then watch this video next because I'm going to give you the exact system I use to do just that. Peace.